announcement to remind you, if you would like to make a presentation or know someone who would, to put them in touch with us. So we're just reminding you of that. And if you would, for the meditation, find yourself a comfortable position, adjust whatever you need to be comfortable. And just a reminder that there are only 92 elements in the universe, as far as known in all the universes. Every atom that's in us has been in other places in the universe. We're made of the stardust. So here's a reminder of who you are. It'll take a few seconds to come on. So in the meantime, prepare yourself. You are a child.
Imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond the wholesome
This Sunday, our speaker is the witty and charming Mark Sconce, whose monthly column in El Ojo del Lago, The Poet's Niche, has attracted a discerning readership. He received the Ojo's Best Poem Award last year. So he's going to read or recite some of his favorite poems this morning. Mark, where art thou?
You're on your own.
Yes, applause will bring him out.
Testing. Yes? Testing? Can you hear me? Yes. Great. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending Open Circle, our weekly open-air showcase theater. Thanks also to Jim Spivey for inviting me once again to mesmerize my audience with the evocative sorcery of very good poetry. But most of all, I give thanks to my wife, Lel, for indulging me these past 8 years in my pursuit of good words and words that rhyme in pleasing or appropriate meters with unexpected accents and rich meaning. For you can't have a good poem without a good idea. And I get good ideas when Lel stands in for the muse. Almost sounds like the beginning of a Cialis commercial, what? American, Canadian, French, and Russian colleagues have called me an anachronism, born about 200 years too late. And I accept the moniker. In fact, I revel in the thought. I relish the role. For I hold that some classic poets and their creations are timeless. Geniuses whose poems stand proud and tall today amidst the bewildering, nearly indecipherable free-for-all of free verse. I cringe and bristle when I read most poems in the New Yorker magazine these days. Here's one from the June 27th issue. Bye, kid in first grade on your paddle cart. Bye, Lorraine, outward bound in the snow. Bye, motorcycle David. Bye, you bright spirits born of my friends Jimmy, Natalie. Bye, beautiful one. Your father said your pink skin would be tender. I was afraid of you. Bye, dickering friend to Sonia. I wanted to show you up. Bye to Bob Liberty. You must be gone. Etc., etc. Ending with bye to those I feared dead. I know you all in his absence tonight. I know you all in his absence tonight. If Susan, the author, is about to commit suicide, wouldn't she at least have the decency to capitalize H, the H of his absence tonight? No. If I look befuddled, it's because I am. Bye, Susan. Bye, cruel world. Now you know that I write a monthly column for El Ojo del Lago called The Poet's Niche, wherein I feature great classic poets and samplings of their work. My very first column featured William Butler Yeats, one of the most popular poets of the 20th century. Irishman Yeats, who in 1923 received the Nobel Prize in Literature for what the Nobel Committee called his inspired poetry, which in a highly artistic form gives expression to the spirit of a whole nation. He was the first Irishman so honored, and he was celebrated around the world. His picture even appeared on the cover of Time magazine. I'm sure you've heard that good poetry should be read aloud. So let's read a little Yeats. For those who have seen the great white pelicans swarm across the lake, I think you'll find this one appropriate. It's called The Wild Swans of Cool, a little town in County West Meath. The trees are in their autumn beauty. The woodland paths are dry. Under the October twilight, the water mirrors a still sky. Upon the brimming water among the stones are 59 swans. The 19th autumn has come upon me since I made my first count. I saw before I had well finished all suddenly mount and scatter, wheeling in great broken rings upon their clamorous wings. I have looked upon those brilliant creatures, and now my heart is sore. All's changed since I, hearing at twilight, the first time on this shore, the bell beat of their wings above my head, trod with a lighter tread. Unwearied still, lover by lover, they paddled in the cold, companionable streams or climbed the air. Their hearts have not grown old. Passion or conquest, wander where they will, attend upon them still. But now they drift on the still water, mysterious, beautiful. Among what rushes will they build? By what lake's edge or pool delight men's eyes when I awake someday and find they have flown away? Unwearied still, lover by lover. But what about the tragedy of love? When you are old and gray and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace and loved your beauty with love false or true? But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you and loved the sorrows of your changing face. And bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly how love fled and paced upon the mountains overhead and hid his face amid a crowd of stars. And last, his most famous poem, The Lake Isle of Innisfree. This poem can be heard on the internet, for he was alive when recording was possible. It's a little scratchy, but I'm going to try to imitate it, if not duplicate his voice with this poem, and see if you like it. There he was, a young Irishman in London, out of his element, longing to be back in Ireland and settling on a little island called Innisfree. Even the London pavement triggers Yeats' deep desire to be back home. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales fields of the morning to where the cricket sings. There midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's gray. I hear it in the deep heart's cool. Be loud, glade, deep heart's cool. Megan. If that poem reminds you of Thoreau's Walden Pond, I can tell you that it did inspire Yeats to write that beautiful poem. Well, let's move to England and George Gordon, Lord Byron, standing in for Shakespeare. By the way, nobody called him George. What can be said about Lord Byron that hasn't already been said? An aristocratic rogue and roue with a penchant for scandal after scandal, whether sexual or financial. Yes, he slept with his half-sister, Augusta. Mad, bad, and dangerous to know, said one jilted lady. He hated most of his aristocratic class, and they returned the favor by driving him out of England, from whence he never returned. Adieu, adieu, my native shore fades o'er the waters blue. The night winds sigh, the breakers roar, and shrieks the wild sea mew. Yon sun that sets upon the sea, we follow in his flight. Farewell a while to him and thee, my native land. Good night. If you love dogs, you love Byron. Remember this excellent excerpt from the inscription on the monument to his dear dog, Boatswain? But the poor dog, in life the firmest friend, the first to welcome, foremost to defend, whose honest heart is still his master's own, who labors, fights, breathes for him alone, unhonored, falls, unnoticed, all his worth, denied in heaven the soul he held on earth, while man, vain insect, hopes to be forgiven and claims himself a soul-exclusive heaven. And finally, here is one of his most celebrated and oft-quoted poems, She Walks in Beauty. She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies. Another dog lover. Well, good. She's okay. All right. Easy. She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies, and all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and in her eyes. Thus mellowed to that tender light which heaven to gaudy day denies. One shade the more, one ray the less, had half impaired the nameless grace which waves in every raven tress, or softly lightens o'er her face, where thoughts serenely sweet express how pure, how dear their dwelling place. And on that cheek, and o'er that brow, so soft, so calm, yet eloquent, the smiles that win, the tints that glow, but tell of days in goodness spent, a mind at peace with all below, a heart whose love is innocent. And then there was Pushkin. Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, who, like Byron, died at age 37. Pushkin is to Russia what Yeats is to Ireland, what Shakespeare is to England, what Goethe is to Germany, what Dante is to Italy. A statue of the popular poet, the soul of Mother Russia, was finally erected and unveiled in 1880. And from that day forward to this, every day, snow, sleet, ice storms, some Russian citizen has laid flowers at the pedestal of that statue. Every day. How curious it is that this so-called soul of Mother Russia was actually part black on his mother's side, tracing her relatives back to Ethiopia. My very favorite poet. I love to recite Pushkin. Let's see what he had to say about love and death. Two quite familiar topics here at Lakeside, I suppose you've noticed. My voice for thee, my love, with languorous caresses, disturbs the solemn peace the midnight dark possesses. Beside this couch of mine, a mournful candle glows, and welling up, my verse in rippling murmurs flows. It flows in streams of love, its music wholly thine, and in the dark, thine eyes are sparkling over mine. They look at me and smile, and oh, the sounds I hear, my sweet and tender friend, my love, my dear, my dear. Well, but sometimes, as we know, love goes sour. Sometimes love cannot withstand the vicissitudes of life. I loved you once, and love, it may well be, within my heart lies unextinguished yet. But don't be troubled now by thoughts of me. I wouldn't cause you sorrow or regret. I loved you once, in silence and despair. Come on, Mark. What fears I knew, what jealous pangs I knew, what timid fears I knew. I love you, though, with love so deep and rare, as grant you, God, another's heart may do. And then there's that old bugaboo, death. Notice how Pushkin ends this famous poem on an optimistic note. When down the bustling streets I pass, or in a crowded church I stray, or share with frenzied youth a glass, the same old thoughts assert their sway. The years, I think, are rushing by, and all the current merry band will one day in the graveyard lie, and time for some is near at hand. When on some lonesome oak I gaze, I muse on how that ancient wood will long outlast my sorry days, as long before my time it stood. When I caress some youngster's face, within my mind I say, farewell. I yield to you this precious space, my time to fade, and yours to swell. I contemplate each passing year, each passing day with bated breath, and wonder as they disappear which date will mark my coming death. And where does fate intend my end? At sea? Abroad? Where battle reigns? Or will some nearby valley lend a plot to hold my mute remains? Though senseless flesh will hardly care precisely where it goes to rot, my final sleep I'd like to share with some once well-beloved spot. And let young life in vigor play before that portal tomb of mine, and let cold nature there, I pray, in everlasting beauty shine. Not so scary after all, is it? Very good. Now, let's turn our attention to Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, the last of the great Renaissance men, poet, philosopher, playwright, novelist, diplomat, civil servant, amateur scientist, botanist, scientific theorist, meteorologist, mineralogist, rockhound. Quote, the greatest happiness for the thinking man is to have fathomed the fathomable and to quietly revere the unfathomable. That's my understanding, and that's my mantra. All of you know The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Some of you know The Sorrows of Werther. My German friends today, where are they? Sorrows of Werther. And many of you know his most famous poem and play, Faust. Faust, the ambitious scholar who makes that notorious and odious deal with the devil, Mephistopheles. His soul for unlimited power and knowledge. Am I a god? I see so clearly. But in the beginning, Mephistopheles, let's call him the devil, or a devil, visits God. Yes. Since, O Lord, you near me once again to ask how all below is doing now, and usually receive me without pain, you see me too among the vile crowd. Forgive me, I can't speak in noble style, and since I'm still reviled by this whole crew, my pathos would be sure to make you smile, if you had not renounced all laughter too. You'll get no word of suns and worlds from me. How men torment themselves is all I see. The little god of earth sticks to the same old way, and is as strange as on that very first day. He might appreciate life a little more, he might, if you hadn't lent him a gleam of heavenly light. He calls it reason, but only uses it to be more a beast than any beast as yet. He seems to me, saving your grace, like a long-legged grasshopper. Through space he's always flying. He flies and then he springs, and in the grass, the same old song he sings. If he'd just lie there in the grass, it wouldn't hurt. But he buries his nose in every piece of dirt. Have you nothing else to name, says God? Have you nothing else to name? Do you always come here to complain? Does nothing ever go right on the earth? Devil. No, Lord, I find, as always, it couldn't be worse. I'm so involved with man's wretched ways, I've even stopped plaguing them myself these days. God, do you know Faust, the doctor? My servant first. Devil, in truth he serves you in a peculiar manner. There's no earthly food or drink at that fool's dinner. He drives his spirit outward, half conscious of its maddened dart. From heaven demands the brightest star, and from the earth joy's highest art. And all the near and all the far fails to release his throbbing heart. God, though he's still confused at how to serve me, I'll soon lead him to a clearer dawning. In the green sapling, can't the gardener see the flowers and fruit the coming years will bring? Devil, what do you wager? I might win him yet. If you give me your permission first, I'll lead him gently on the road I set. God, as long as he's alive on earth, so long as that I won't forbid it. For while man strives, he errs. Devil, my thanks. I've never willingly seen fit to spend my time amongst the dead. I much prefer fresh cheeks instead. To corpses I close my house. Or it's too much like a cat and mouse. God, well and good. You've said what's needed. Divert this spirit from his source. You know how to trap him, lead him on your downward course. And when you must, then stand amazed. A good man in the darkest yearning is still aware of virtue's ways. Devil, that's fine. There's hardly any waiting. My wager's more than safe, I'm thinking. When I achieve my goal in winning, you'll let me triumph with a swelling heart? He'll eat the dust, and with an art like the snake, my mother, known for sinning. Politically conservative, but hardly dour, Goethe penned this next poem about a faun, that half-human, half-goat figure of Roman mythology, who's been known to play the pan flute. In the wilderness, a holy man, to his surprise, met a servant of Pan. A goat-footed faun who spoke with grace. Lord, pray for me and for my race, that we in heaven find a place. We thirst for God's eternal bliss. The holy man made answer to this. How can I grant thy bold petition? For thou canst hardly gain admission in heaven yonder where angels salute. For lo, thou hast a cloven foot. Undaunted, the wild man made the plea. Why should my foot offensive be? I've seen great numbers that went straight with asses' heads through heaven's gate. Well, I see my time is almost up. One more poem. See if you can guess its author. The Magic Mountain, with apologies to Thomas Mann. Now, this poem contains a controversial word, at least controversial in terms of its pronunciation. Some say gibbous moon, the three-quarter moon, and some say gibbous moon. I've checked the sources. Half say one, half say the other. And so I checked with my friend Peppy here today, and he helped me make a decision as to how to pronounce this word. I'm going to go with gibbous. Why? Well, he brought to my attention this little tidbit. give us the moonlight, give us the girls, and let us take care of the rest. Tonight a gibbous moon is bright directly overhead, and stars illuminate the Stygian night, and on the right, the planet Mars. But muffled thunder greets the day, and distant lightning looms o'erhead, illuminating shades of gray and darkling clouds a watershed. The dawn ignites the mountain lake, the drizzle thick and low gray clouds, all sodden, somber, some opaque, as if ensconced in funeral shrouds. They're cloaking Mount Garcia now. The misty heavens darkness spreads, erupting ash on man and plow, accompanied by thunderheads. A crown of clouds rests easily on Mount Garcia's ancient brow, a lord above the brightening lake, still overlording here and now. Gray light emerges from the mist, from scudding clouds and monsoon squalls, as nature to the Taoist will find the path as evening falls. Thank you.
If you have questions, Mark is willing to entertain them.
I always try to entertain, please.
I selected that word.
That couldn't be my wife well, could it? Oh my God. Oh, so I hope this has to do with throwing. Did you take the trash out?
I just wanted to know who wrote that lovely poem you just quoted.
Shut up, shut up.
Ensconced in shrouds. Judy.
You have given us your estimation of the best poet in many different cultures. Who would you add to that list from the United States?
Well,
I know you already added yourself, but in addition to yourself.
when the time comes, you see, I wanted to cover Europe first, and then we'll come to the northern hemisphere, and I think I'm going to go with Mexico first, since that's where we are. The woman, Sor Johanna? Yeah, Sor Johanna. And then, of course, the United States, I think, got to be Walt Whitman, don't you? Yeah. There's always China and India. We got Rabindranath Tagore for India. We've got Lu Xi for China. But I'm not sure I want to go there. Yeah.
More questions or comments?
Yep. Sir?
How do you feel about Leonard Cohen?
Oh, wait for the mic, please, so everybody can hear. I'm sorry. How do you feel about Leonard Cohen?
I have no feeling one way or the other. No comment.
There, you have an answer.
Sir, how do you feel about him?
I love his works.
You know, I studied it in high school, and then he ran into some monetary problems and he became a singer, and he does not have a voice of a singer, but I love his work.
Well, let's check it. That sounds like a good recommendation to me.
Well, I don't see any more hands. So they understood every word. Now, bye. Next week's speaker will be Therese Halscheid, who will give us a poetic tale of travel. So that concludes our session today. Please pick up your coffee cups and stack the chairs by color and style. And we'll see you next Sunday.